Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I'll bring to you a comment on what Meta Monday has found this past weekend. This will be, of course, be a Tyranids video. So, yeah, we're opening up, but I just wanted to say, this isn't my stuff. This is Meta Mondays, and this is going over this past weekend of 7/21. If you're seeing this 3 weeks into the future, this happened 3 weeks ago, and if you knew I was going to do this 3 weeks ago, you're awesome, I guess. But I usually try not to just completely just rip and look at Meta Monday's one weekend thing and just go, hey, this is what happened. Except for when things are interesting. Like, I usually try to stave it off, and that's like not a comment on anything further. Don't know the people behind it, or the person behind it. Just saying, I try not to. Until something happens, right? So that means something happened. Uh, I want to go, of course, to Tyranids, right? And it speaks to the larger portion of, I guess, the changes that happen with the balance digitally and the game, right? Because things are interesting. Tyranids got our, well, as a people would say, best detachment, right? I, hey, it's here. It had 56% win rate this past weekend. 8 X and O or X and 1s, 0 tournament wins, 28 players winning 90 out of 160 games, okay? The overall faction this past weekend had a 46%. So that means even with Subterranean Assault approaching 60, we're halfway there. Uh, the rest of the faction is so utter dog water uh, in the current state of the game that we hit 46%. With 9 X and O, one other being an invasion fleet. Invasion fleet, okay? 68 players winning 177 out of 388 games. That's closer to 175 out of 400 games, right? So that's not looking great. Now, you'd say, well, first off, I might title this something like Subterranean Assault or Bust. Whoa, maybe, I don't know. But genuinely though, let's look at Subterranean Assault. We've have been for a lot of this time, but it does go to say that 56% sounds insane, right? It does sound a little bit insane. Then you have to remember that means that most people can manage with Subterranean Assault a 3 and 2. At a 5 round event, they can manage a 3 and 2. And with only 8 out of 28 going X and O or X and 1, meaning 4 and 1 or 5 and O, you take those out of the equation, that means most people are going 3 to 2, 2 to 3. And that's not a terrible spot to be in. Like, that's not. But it's not great, especially when it's one detachment that has more or less solved the faction's issues, or at least attempted to. We still have durability. We're getting AP things. I could go on. I'm not here to vent on this one, but I am here to look observantly uh, at this. I would say objectively, but let's be honest, this is subjective coming from me. Next up, and also, before we get too far, it's probably too far to say this, but this is one weekend, okay? This is a small sample size. However, if you go back a couple of videos, actually, I don't know how many now, I was talking about how we're on a downward trend overall. So it's not hot, which is why when I gotta admit, I didn't. I don't think I said it in the WTC video because I was like, no, that this wasn't the place for this. But now is, I think. Um, Utterly surprised by the amount of people trying to take Tyranids and the current state of the game for competitive endeavors. Is it impossible? No, I don't think it's impossible. But I think that also to note about Subterranean Assault, I don't know how many of these events actually fully had the FAQ, not the FAQ, the minor update. Yeah, FAQ too. In place yet. I don't know how many people were still spamming Molochs, just trying to be cheeky, and I don't know how many people were still using Tunnel Network in combat. I reckon that by the end of the month, we will see that number be lower because that should be in effect across the board. And you go, Monster, that was almost 2 weeks ago. Of course they did it. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. And hell, I'm usually surprised when I'm like, what do you mean you were using the rules from 2 months ago because you booked the tickets? Anyway, I digress. Not on me. Next up, Warrior Bioform Onslaught. 50%. One person. Shout out to you. 2 and 4. Don't know if it was a 4-round event. Usually, I could have sworn that Meta Monday only covers 5 rounds. Maybe they had to dip out at that 5th. Sounds about right. I did say, oddly enough, I think there's a chance that Warrior Bioform Onslaught does interesting things. Because you would need an invuln and 3 wounds at the bare minimum to survive. So that if there's a chance, now again, this is one person. This isn't. Don't take this as me saying, see, one person did it. Everybody run Warrior Bioform Onslaught. If I'm saying that, please, I've been replaced by somebody. Okay, please call the local authorities. Mr. Monster has been replaced. If I am telling everybody to go run Warrior Bioform Onslaught. But it is just to say that I think it's funny that there's a chance it could be 3 and 2, 2 and 3 good. I think that there's a chance that you can at least manage 2 or 3 wins before bowing out. Do I think you're gonna take home the gold? No, but I think if now or ever, again, I made this a separate video, so don't really want to repeat everything again. But now more than ever, I think there is a chance that you could just like take your bajillion warriors to a couple of second phase, some other razzle dazzle, and not be completely miserable. And that's just the take on it. But now we come to the rest of the faction, and fuck, right? Fuck. We have Synaptic Nexus at 44%, Invasion Fleet at 39, Invasion Fleet at 39, 22 players. One getting an X and O or X and 1, well, X and 1 because I guess I shouldn't say X and O because neither of these are wins, so X and 1s across the board. But fuck, it's Invasion Fleet, guys. It is, peeps, it is Invasion Fleet. That's fucked. People don't stop playing Invasion Fleet. Now, caveat to this. It is the equivalent of Space Marines in the fact that it is the new player detachment. Anybody that's been playing Tyranids for a minute, there's a good chance they're not playing Invasion Fleet right now when Subterranean Assault is in our face. However, I must admit, recently going over the WTC list and just looking through the tournaments, that isn't the case across the board. It's just more likely that there are more newer players going to their first GT with Invasion Fleet. But we do still see the big contending names take out Invasion Fleet right now. But out of 22 players, they won 50 of the games out of 128 possible games. Invasion Fleet going below 40%, your index detachment, i.e., the detachment that can take anything, or that's what it's intended to be. I know that not every faction got that same treatment. Going below 40% is a little bit fucking concerning. And again, this is one weekend. However, I think 22 people is a large sample size that we typically would see for some other detachments in a month. Hell, maybe in a balanced data slate, so in 3 months. So I think that that's not as bad to look at when, again, Invasion Fleet is familiar. We know it. So 39% is pretty rough. Assimilation Swarm. I am, of course, upset about this one. 2 people. 5 out of 13. That's not too bad for 2 people. You all managed 5 games out of 13 possible games. That's not too bad. Hey, I'd like to see Assimilation Swarm be better, but I have come to terms with the fact that not right now. It just probably isn't right now. And then next up, we have, again, something you all know that I like, Crusher Stampede. 37% for the weekend, 7 people playing it, 14 wins out of 38 games. That's. I get that I'm probably sounding like a broken record by now, but it's fucked. It is pretty fucked because like it's things that I've been repeating for the past couple of weeks. Everybody now is trying to scramble to kill knights. But here's the thing, right? When you're scrambling to kill something that's tougher, the thing that's slightly less tough, slightly weaker, dies easier. So if somebody techs in like 1 or 2 fire dragon units, 1 or 2 tank killing guns, that has increased efficiency, which means you can just run through a Crusher Stampede list for the most part. We still have different builds, but while everybody else is focused on killing knights, we still have to worry about killing knights our damn selves. And guess what? We definitely can't do that like that. Previously, I guess it was just my own. Nah, take that back because it was in team tournaments too. But Crusher Stampede into Knights before they reworked them to be 11 with more wounds didn't feel that bad. I'll be honest, it really didn't feel that bad to me. Now I know some other people really couldn't fuck with it. I get it. I I guess like I get it. Not to say that always rolling hot over here on the. Well, it wasn't even a casino cannon anymore at that point, but I always rolling hot on the rupture effect cannon, because previously, if you spiked with a rupture cannon, you kill a big knight. Now it is impossible for one Tyran effects to kill one big knight. So now it's worse for us in that sense, and trying to kill little shit, something we can do, but the game also is kind of cheaper for some of the things that bring a lot of bodies. And we only have so many attacks, which is the other thing that I talk about when I'm rambling on about, oh, our melee, oh, how I wish our melee was better. A Trigon 12 attacks, cute, right? That's fine. Moloch 16, Harspex, what am I, 18, right? 14 and 4, something like that. But to that end, that's for one monster that got into combat, right? For a monster, I know this is utterly absurd, so don't take this. I know sometimes I make a little joke, and sometimes it goes too far, outside of people realizing it's a joke. But if you gave me a monster with like 20 fucking attacks, now we're talking about it being an attacking unit, right? But the caveat is supposed to be that we're cheap. Uh, and that's kind of where I want to start talking. I'm been thinking of a list of things I want to see in 11th, and that's you spoil one of them. I want to be cheap. I don't want to be. Oh well, the Hive Tyrant is only 225 points. I know it's not anymore. But I don't want that to be, oh, well, come on now. Everything else is cheap except for that thing, that thing, that thing. Oh, for those your best units, and that you have to take in every list. Oh, sorry about that. I don't want that. That's definitely one of my big things. I want to be admech fucking cheap. I want us to switch places. I don't want infantry that I'm looking at like, yeah, they're 5 little guys that everybody can pick up. I spent 75 points on it. No, I want something ridiculous. I want 5 guys for 60. I want that shit. I don't want, oh, there's Hyper Rabbit. Before I go on, back to Meta Monday. Crusher Stampede. That's where it is, right? Our monsters don't punch like monsters, still, unfortunately. But they are still monsters, so they have every weakness to monster shit. Going through walls, yeah, it's alleviated a little bit in Crusher Stampede. But the game is also faster, and then challenger cards. So, if you start winning with less models, and your opponent closes that gap, on models that can be lifted off of the board fairly easily, that means you weren't winning. That's what that means. So, Crusher Stampede, among my beloved, is looking rough. And then, Vanguard Onslaught. Usually, I would be popping champagne bottles again because I'm not a Vanguard Onslaught hater. I am not. I repeat that. I'm sorry for the monstrosities that have been here. I repeat that because, uh, luckily, thankfully, people see an old video and they come back, and then I have to refresh the lore, the where we are in the timeline. Right. I'm not a Vanguard Onslaught hater, never have been. But I did always want to point out that while everybody's like, Vanguard Onslaught's the second best detachment, it just hasn't ever statistically proven to be so. And unfortunately, when I started to drink the punch on Vanguard Onslaught, it looks like even I had my moment of Delulu, as it is not proving to be the case this weekend either. However, I do wonder how much of that comes down to the availability of hyper-adapted Raveners, because that's been my biggest key point here. That I only now rate Vanguard Onslaught if you are taking the hyper-adapted Raveners and new Raveners. That is the only time I am now rating Vanguard Onslaught. I don't believe in this build that has 1 or 2 melee warrior bricks. I don't think they do enough. But you said worry about them because they get a 5 up invuln and some other cheeky shit. And I have a video for that. Go watch that video if you want the full breakdown on that. But Vanguard Onslaught, I'm surprised and not surprised because one, like I said, don't know if people had that much access to hyper adaptive Raveners. I, for one, only got a full unit, right? And that cost me more than I want to admit. No, I did not pay scalpers. So I just want to say that right now. Did not pay scalper prices. But at the same time, fuck. That's some money. That's some money that got paid. So I myself only managed 1 full unit. I can only imagine people readily getting 3 units now. And on top of that, when you don't need it, right? If you want to play Vanguard Onslaught, I'd say yeah, that'd be an investment, right, to do so. Especially now if they let you proxy, whatever GT you're at, or tourney, I guess RTT, count as well. Whatever tourney you're at, if the TO lets you proxy your old ass Raveners, because you for some odd reason have a bunch of those, right? Go for it. Okay. Um, but if you don't have access to hyper adaptive Raveners, I don't think Vanguard Onslaught is saving you. And again, I could make another video. It's just like, oh, these are the things. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good detachment, but here's that tends to go by the wayside. But all I say right now, wrapping up the Tyranid section of this, because this is a Tyranid focus video, but I did want to comment on some other things. Is that, well, everybody's trying to score points. That's been my biggest thing with this detachment. Yes, it is a point scoring detachment. Guess what? Everybody's trying to score points. And going back to challenger cards, if you're trying to score points and create a point deficit, your opponent is actively drawing a fucking challenger card where they are either closing the gap in points, so it's not really that big of a deficit, while your models are dying on the fucking table because they're squishing, or, or, they're getting a free stratagem to kill your once again squishy point scoring units. So it's just kind of all bad in that regard. Why do I think hyper adaptive Ravners solve all of this? Because if you're not on the table, guess what? You then come down and then beat their ass and give 10 inches, 10-inch advanced charge, all these things. Have a video on that too. But just to say, yeah, that's not looking good. But again, that's only 5 people. But it is 9 games out of 29 games. That is close to 10 out of 30, which is a flat 30% win rate. So, small sample size aside, it's still not looking great. Now, let's actually pull up last weekend. I don't think I looked at last weekend. Actually, let's look at the last two. All right, I should have just closed this. Uh, Before we circle back to some other things I want to touch about this previous weekend. Where were we on here? Last weekend, 47 and 7-7. Where were we on here? 47. Okay. Uh, Going to last weekend, Subterranean Assault, 49% win rate. Invasion Fleet, 47. Crusher Stampede, 36. Synaptic Nexus, 20. With one person going 1 and 5. That sounded like I'm really ragging on that person. I'm so sorry. I just meant that only one person was playing Synaptic Nexus. So last weekend didn't look too hot, right? Last weekend did not look too hot. Invasion Fleet out of 25 players, 59 games won out of 126 games played. 3 going X and 1. Subterranean Assault, 49%, so hey, it has gotten better. And I think, I'll be honest, reviewing the list that we've looked at, and the inclusion of things like Hiveguard, I think we're finally waking up and smelling the biomass that the melee route just wasn't, it hasn't been doing us much favors. It just wasn't going to, I understand 6-inch charges was appealing. But I will caveat and give everybody else this grace as well. They're a lot more appealing when you can tunnel network out of combat and try that shit again over here. Oh, I damn near got my ass beat over there. I'm gonna take my ass over here and try to beat their ass this time over here. That is a much better result. I can understand that. Now, with that coming down, yeah, I think de facto range backslash mix, not to say that you completely abandoned melee, is going to start looking better for Subterranean Assault. But going back to last weekend, there's only 4 detachments, not too much to talk about here. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, the color threw me off for a second. Also 4 detachments. Warrior bioform onslaught. Did we have anybody? No. Whoever the lone warrior warrior organisms out there in the hive mind doing it, you know what? Hats off to you, because fuck it. You take your fucking warriors and you go throw them at people's faces and just let the dice roll with all those fucking attacks. If you make it there. Or you just take 6 saves and there goes the unit. 7 saves and there goes the unit. So, either way, Subterranean Assault, after that, 57%. So, we've seen it do this before, right? Is it going to fluctuate back and forth? I think so. 7-7. I say this. This is where it's a little bit fresh, and people are going, "Whoa! What the fuck is that? You put a monster out of a hole. That's crazy. Oh no! What the fuck?" And then you come back to, yeah, you took a monster out of a hole. And then this past weekend, again looking at all the new changes that should be rolling out, people are going back to that. Wait, my army had something change, such as cough cough, Tau, and we see that didn't do them too many favors, unfortunately. Oh, my army changed again. There was rules and what the fuck? Oh no, now there's a Trigon. Subterranean Assault does have that factor to it, where it's the new thing and it's the surprising thing. You get people that somehow still haven't played against Tyranids, and that's not like a, what are you doing? You haven't played it. That's just like, there's a lot of us out here playing Tyranids, so I don't know how it's just like, yeah, I've been playing for 3 years, never encountered a bug once. That's crazy. Like, just it happens. It's just wild to think. So that's what happens with Subterranean. So, whoa, what the fuck? And I'll be honest, this is something that I decided not to make into a video. But when I was watching tournaments, those first 2-3 weeks that Subterranean Assault was playable, I saw armies completely shut off their own game plan because you tell them, hey, Zoes can come out of this hole over here and shoot that thing. Brains went off fucking line. Aggressive armies that haven't left deployment because, oh, I don't want my thing to get shot. Oh no! I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? Sorry, this is going to be a passionate thing right here, tangent. But I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? Why is this army that has a bajillion inch movement still in deployment turn bottom of turn 3? What the fuck am I looking at here? It's just like, well, what cards did they draw? No, I mean like, yes, cards draw matter, this, that, whatever. But at the same time, if you go out with your army that wants to go out, and again, hold on, staging, yes, there's all that thing, staging, melee armies, cool. Where it's like, alright, you can't just send it into face immediately. In some armies you can. Tyranids is one of them. But yeah, just watch. I was losing my fucking mind for those first 2 or 3 weeks just watching people have the most crippling shadow in the warp on their IRL psyche of, well, what do you mean? You can put a monster over there. What toughness is it? 11. What's it save? 3 up. How many wounds? 14. Oh fuck! I only have 18 las guns. What am I going to do? Like I was losing my fucking mind. I couldn't believe it. Just the paralysis, analysis paralysis was just insane. But Subterranean Assault still has that factor where you encounter people that just don't know how to deal with that. I'm so sorry if now you can hear whatever construction is going on. I thought I had beaten it all out. So I'll stop yapping to get this wrapped up. That way you all don't hear any more background things. But yeah, going back to 7-7 just to close it out. Vanguard Onslaught, it had a 0% win rate. Now again, it was one person. Shout out to them for trying to play all 5 games. Or they just bowed out and it got nulled out. That's also possible. If it got nulled out, actually. Hold on. If it got nulled out, I don't think that Meta Monday would count it. Interesting. Invasion Fleet, 38%. 2 weeks ago. So there's that. So again, if your index isn't looking hot, it's not looking hot. It's not looking hot. So yeah, we're in a rough spot. Oh, and sorry, the things that I want to touch on real quick. Looking at Space Marines, 46%. Vanguard Spearhead out of nowhere. Oh, what the fuck? Gladius at 44. It turns out maybe GW put a little bit too much weight on what was actually doing things for both. Well, they only were thinking about Space Marines, but guess what? It affected us too. Command point generation. Yes, there's a lot of command points, but I think they handled it fucking wrong, if I'm being honest. I like it better than the rumored alternative, where it was just like, yeah, you could only do it one. But when you take armies that haven't had it all edition and then make it so that they're better because they've now have it and they've had rules the entire time to support that, compared to armies that rely on it, i.e., yes, when you give Space Marines 30 command points, it's pretty fucking annoying. But that comes down to, I want to use a stratagem here, stratagem here, stratagem here. Author of the codex say what, shit like that. That's what happens. You have an entire codex of stratagems to play on. You look over at Tyranids. Yeah, we got a couple of stratagems per detachment that we go, yeah, I'll do this every turn. Fine, you twisted my hand. I will 5 up, feel no pain again. When you take away that, and then I don't have the command point reroll, and then some other shit, it's fucked on top of the data sheets, right? So being tied with Space Marines, that means, hey, there's a chance that they're looking at this, or on the more cynical side, it could be, oh no, my Space Marines are 46%. That's the only group of 46%ers that I care about. Now, this is again for just the past weekend. It's not the overall stats. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like everything's getting noisy, so that means that it's time to wrap this up. I'm so sorry. But, closing that out, Space Marines, Tau, I don't know how many rule changes before that kicks in. And interestingly enough, I also noticed that Necrons came down to 44% on the weekend. Looks like they actually did need to get buffed, oddly enough. So, yeah, Tyranids. We're not looking great. If anything, it's just by numbers, and it might be Subterranean Assault or nothing. Um, Fuck it, let's make that the title. And bonus points if you made it to the end of the video to hear me make that stupid ass joke. That is probably going to be the title because creativity is feigning. But yeah, Tyranids. We're not looking hot. I hope we look better. And yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, mob monstrosities.